Peter, what is it that appears to be a continuing connection with the previous moment?
Well, you can't answer that question, can you? It's a mystery. Can't say what it is. Can't say what anything is. Operative word there seems to be.
But we can say that there continues to be a continuing presence. It's something that doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it's like an ongoing.
Well, there seems to be. It certainly looks like that, or it can be described as that. But since you can't find it, you can't define it, you can't pin down what it is, you can't even verify that it is that.
But it's beyond thought. I mean, you can see
Sure.
how thought does that. But even with
Well, actuality is of course beyond thought. Actuality is ungraspable by thought. But the way that actuality is, and what actuality is entirely transcendental, which means that it transcends describability, it transcends analysis. You can't say what it is, you can't say how it is, you can't pin down. And it's stronger than just you can't say it, you cannot get to the bottom of it. So anything in the most profound way you can put it is superficial. It's not what it is. So yeah, it seems to be continuity, it seems to be, continuous presence, but you can't say what continuous really is, and you can't say what presence really is. So having said that it seems to be continuous presence, you haven't really said a whole hell of a lot. But certainly, I mean, it's you can intuitively say, yeah, it seems to be continuous presence, sure. But what is that? And it's not a question you can answer, but it is an actuality that you are, that this is, that you can be with and you are with absolute intimacy. You can notice that intimacy. Notice how it's impossible to not be present. Presence isn't something that needs to be done. And what is present? When you say presence, what is present with what? There is no what and there is no what, it's just presence. And presence is always 100%. You could say presence is with itself, right? So this is present with itself with inconceivable intimacy and with absolute inalienability. It can't ever be diminished. It can't ever be turned down. It can't ever be split off from itself. This is intrinsically, absolutely present with itself. You don't need to do it. It's impossible to not do it. So presence is a given. It's an absolute given.
I keep thinking and believing that there is a shift of that. There's some kind of a turnaround, or
What turns around from what to what?
well, we can't say. And it's transcendental.
But in what sense are you referring to that?
Well,
What do you mean by that?
a shift in the intimacy of that presence, I guess from a point of view the point of view changes, or the point of view.
What it looks like continually changes. What the point of view looks like continually changes, but the intimacy and the engagement and the presence never changes. It's never more. If you're caught up in a point of view, that is just a way of spinning this absolute inalienable presence. And if you're not caught up in a point of view, that's just another way of spinning this absolute inalienable presence. But you never have more or less presence. It can look like anything. It can look like neurotic distraction. It can look like profound, integration. I mean, whatever, But what it looks like is not what it is, because what it is not dependent on what it looks like. And in fact, what it looks like is absolutely unstable, absolutely unfindable, absolutely unresolvable. So it's, it always looks different. There's absolutely, you can't find continuity or integrity in what it looks like. And yet what it is, it never departs from. It cannot depart from what it is. It is intrinsically itself. It is intrinsically completely engaged with itself. And that is its very being. But it looks like anything. And it can look like points of view, it can look like obsession with personality, it can look like neurotic distraction with misinterpretation, it can look like profound realization, it can look like this, that, and the other, but it is always exactly the same, regardless of what it looks like. It's not dependent on what it looks like. The dream is a dream, regardless of what it looks like.
What is the relationship or the connection or the effect or the apparent connection with the perception of that from an awakened perspective?
What connection of what to that?
The perception of presence.
Right. Okay. The perception of presence. Well, when in the waking condition, you see the fact that presence is a constant. Presence is what this condition is, and presence by its very nature looks like anything, which is, I call radiant. Hence radiant presence. In awakening, you see that. And in fact, that's what you're seeing even in unawakening, but you aren't aware that that's what you're seeing. So the actual condition of what's being seen is not different in realization and unrealization, but in unrealization you just know what it is. In delusion you don't, but it's actually the same seeing of the same thing in the same way.
So then the awakening then has more to do with a kind of liberation from an apparent body.
It's a liberation from any frame of reference.
From any frame of reference.
Without excluding frame of references. But instead of relating to things in terms of frames of reference, interpretive frames of reference, you relate to what it is intrinsically, and you know that frames of reference are always just coming and going gratuitously, and they don't mean anything.
So this intrinsically then seems to be more in depth than relating to it non-intrinsically.
It's not actually more in depth. Depth is always the same. This is the same depth or lack of depth. Depth is actually not a relevant category.
So what
This is always completely engaged with itself. It's never engaged with itself more deeply. It's never engaged with itself less deeply.
What do you mean by intrinsically then?
Intrinsically means that it, by its very nature, is doing that or is that. It's not something that's being done as an action by something in some context. it intrinsically is, intrinsically by its very nature, by its very being, engages with itself with absolute, complete intimacy.
Without any add-ons.
No add-ons.
Which is what most people are probably doing.
Well, they may think they're doing it, they aren't actually doing it. I mean, frames of reference are all conceptual. They're not actual. And seeing that that's the case is realization. So in a frame of reference, nothing is being added on. If you think something is being added on, then you're completely misinterpreting the frame of reference. An objective world is not actually being added on here. If I believe in an objective world, I'm not adding anything on. An objective world is not created by me believing in it. But there may be the thought present that there's an objective world here, and there may be believing in that thought, but none of that has anything to do with an objective world. All of that is just the inherent apparition of this engagement of presence with itself. So it seems like there's add-ons, but there's nothing added, and there's no on. It's an imaginary add-on. If I have an imaginary friend, it doesn't give me a friend. It's just a thought. And thought is simply an apparitional mode of this presence. Everything is an apparitional mode of this presence, because its nature is to appear to itself with essentially absolutely unbounded range of apparitional qualities and modes, let's say.
So without the thoughts and without the identification with the perspective from the thought,
Right.
There's just it's just the presence.
Yeah, except it's not without the thought, and it's not without the identification, because thought isn't really thought, and identification isn't really identification. It's all just present. There's no thought to omit. There's no identification to omit. Thought isn't really thought, and identification isn't really identification. And when you see that, that's realization.
If it's not really that, what's going on then?
Really in presence.
Doing that.
Well, seeming to do that.
It's happening.
It is happening.
It's happening.
What's here is happening.
Somehow
But it's happening, but there's no it.
Yeah.
It's happening, but the it that's happening is radiant presence. The it that's happening is not thought and identification and interpretations and frames of reference.
It's radiant presence.
Period.
Radiating.
Yeah, radiant presence radiates and presents.
Presenting.
It's like in a movie. There's light on the screen and sound. Period. There's no plot. There's no actors. There's no story. It's just light on the screen and sound. Period. Here, there's radiant presence. Period. There's no event. There's no entities. There's no circumstances. No eye, no ear. Etc., etc., etc. ...
Also, no ending of any of that.
Because it's not that. It's radiant presence. And when you see that, then that's realization, and nothing has been omitted or excluded, because there is nothing to omit or exclude. All the thinking and frames of reference and all that so-called can seem to keep occurring because they aren't really that. They never were. It's like an optical illusion. Where's the vase? Is the vase still out somewhere? No vase
Yeah, it's
anymore?
like on off. I mean, it's like a toggle switch.
Yeah.
It's behind something.
It's optical. It's optical eluded into non-appearance.
Eluded. It's behind another picture, I think.
It's more than a toggle switch, isn't it?
Less than a toggle switch. It's radiant presence. Not seeing it is radiant presence. Seeing it is radiant presence. Delusion is radiant presence. Realization is radiant presence.
There is still a liberation from the parent body.
It's liberation from it's liberation from the apparent body, the apparent world, the apparent lifetime, the apparent karma, the apparent everything. Because all of those apparent what have yous are radiant present, which is intrinsically liberated from itself because it's not anything. It's not even a mirage. It's not anything, and yet it's actual. Actual, but it's completely unfindable. How can you be entrapped by unfindability? How can you be stuck in a jail built of unfindability? And yet you seem to manage.
You get stuck by trying to find something.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're trying to find something, you're screwed. You should have luck. Technical term. Yeah. You're never going to find anything. Can't find what anything is. Can't be done.
You find that.
Huh?
You find that.
Yeah, you can find that, but that's not anything because you can't find what that is. Unfindability is not actually findable. It's self-evident, but you can't actually get to the bottom of it. You can't find it. It's really like that, you know. This is not just sophistry. It's not just word games. This is really like that. There's literally nothing here, nothing findable here whatsoever. There's no here. And yet it's real, it's actual. And you can't find what that is, but it is that. You came up with 37, I'm guessing.
Oh man, you should check that.
I should have thought to email you. I thought of letting John and Irma know.
Yeah.
There's a website you can check for when they're having a major race, and then you can sort of.
There's a parking lot, huh?
Just take traffic on.
Oh, you went that way too? We went Centerville, Richmond, and then up. Took that shortcut from Port Richmond to 80, you know, that goes across. Yeah, that was. He's the navigator.
And this is how you do noticing. Anything that seems to be something, look at it, and you'll see that you can't say what it is. And if you can't say what it is, then you can't verify that it's what you thought it was. And so then is it really something? Is it really anything? Can you find anything that's there in anything that seems to be something? And you can't. It's absolutely impossible. It doesn't go away, but you can't find it.
You can find clarity.
Sure, you can find clarity, but clarity is not. But you can't.
And when you can't,
But when you find clarity, you can't find what clarity is. So you can't actually find clarity per se. Clarity.
you have it, you don't care.
Yeah, you can find clarity, but clarity is not a thing.
Right, right.
Anything that seems to be a thing is the issue. That's what traps you. It was a I can't remember exactly which it was. For those of you that are Star Trek fans, if any geeks online that are Star Trek fans, there was one of the Star Trek movies where they went into warp drive, and there was something there with them, and it like set up an interference, and the whole thing was about to self-destruct. And it's like that. Anything that seems to be a thing completely ruins everything, fucks you up. You're screwed. It's like much worse than a pearl of sand in an oyster. It's like, anything that seems to be something crystallizes an entire world around it, and crystallizes an entire entrapment. So to be an entrapment is just anything that seems to be something. Look and see until you see that it isn't. Then continue with that until you see that there are no things, and more profoundly, more radically, to continue with that until you see that there can be no things. Things are an impossibility, because nothing is resolvable, nothing is findable, nothing is resolvable is a good way to put it. Nothing can be resolved into coherence. Picture a telescope that cannot be focused. And it's not that it can't be focused because the telescope is busted. It's that it can't be focused because it lives in a world where there's no focus. So then out of focus is focus. And then are you looking at a star or not? Well, I don't know. It's a meaningless question in that universe. So are there things here or not? I don't know. It's a meaningless question in this universe. Things can't be found. And yet not finding things is finding that which is most valuable to find. One of my favorite Dzogchen books, it says, if you look for the mind and you don't find it, that's finding it.
You said, I think you said, I don't know if there are things there?
No, it's not. It's that you know that whether or not there are things there is not a meaningful category.
Okay. I thought you said you didn't know if there were things there.
Well, I may have. I got swept up into my wild simile of the out of focus universe. I think it's a simile.
You do definitely know there are no things there.
Yeah, you can know for a fact that there's no things there.
That knowing is not necessarily seeing. You just know.
Well, you can say it's knowing, you can say it's seeing, but what it is this presence. This presence is intrinsically knowing. This presence is intrinsically seeing. So you don't need a knowing and a seeing as some kind of an event or condition or power, because that's a given, because that's what this is. That's what this is made of. It's what it consists of. This is a seeing. This is seeing itself. It can't not see itself. So the seeing is already there. The knowing is, and when I say seeing, you can substitute the word knowing because it knows itself. It's not like it's a visual phenomena or something.
Just as it is.
Yeah. So that's a given. That switch is always on. It can't be shut off. So it's not like you need to have a knowing or a seeing. There is knowing or seeing intrinsically. That is what this is. And when that knowing or seeing sees that knowing or seeing is knowing and seeing to knowing and seeing, which is literally what's going on here, then there's no extra elements. Then you don't have to deal with all of these complexities because it's just knowing and seeing, knowing and seeing, knowing and seeing. And that was a subject, a verb, and an object. Not just meaningless repetition. Not just meaningless repetition. It's like I used to say, noticing, noticing, noticing.
Okay, for me, it's like even in the knowing and seeing, there seems to be a why that always seems to drop its ass, and then it's the end of knowing and seeing.
And what's the end?
I always just kind of like, okay, knowing and seeing, but there's just like, well, why? There's a why.
It's a why.
It seems to be such a useless question, but it's always just.
Well, tell me more about that. What put it in another set term. What does it feel like? What does it seem like? I mean, and one thing I hear about you saying, this is you could say this is intrinsically curious about itself, and in that sense there is a why, but it's not actually a why. It's more of a you could say addiction or enthusiasm or joy or pleasure in engaging itself. So this loves itself. The presence loves itself, and the presence is intoxicated with itself, and the presence unendingly seeks itself out, like a junkie seeks out smack. I mean, we're talking like major.
Major.
It's a yeah, and that is here for sure, and that could be put as a why. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to.
Well, that's what it feels
Yeah.
like, actually.
Yeah.
It's
like
there's something.
Yeah. The
that-
unresolvability of this, the incoherence of this, is its own opportunity to continue this unending engagement and intoxication with itself. It's not like there's no stasis, there's no finality, there's no finishing. It's not like you get to a point and it stops and it's like, oh, it's not like that. It's like it's always leaning into itself.
In a sense, the
And
answer
it's
to
a
the
hunger.
why is why not?
Sure,
And that's what
sure.
it tells itself. So
Yeah,
it
well,
changes.
verbally, yeah, but I mean,
No, I'm just
what
saying
that
that's the
is,
metaphor.
Yeah.
but what that is this love of itself.
Right. Why not?
Yeah.
It's fun.
I mean, in a way, that you could sort of, and if you want to turn it into a narrative, that's sort of the you could say the reason for the radiance, the reason for all of this apparition, all of this presentation, is it just keeps tripping on the different ways it can seem to itself. And it just keeps being with this, oh wow, I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this. That's never-endingly and ongoingly, this continual morphing of exploration and enjoyment and participation in itself. And exploring meanings and exploring flavors and exploring all this rainbow, this inconceivable rainbow of qualities that obviously present experientially.
It's ordinary.
Completely ordinary. Always has been. Always will be. It's ordinary, entire, transcendental miraculousness. Ordinary, everyday, entire, transcendental miraculousness. Like it always has been.
It's the real thing.
It is the real thing. It's for sure. It's the real thing. Capital letters, underlined, exclamation
In red.
points. Yeah, for sure. This is it. This is real. I mean, that's one reason why the term realization is so good, because it is real. Realization is realization of the real. It's reality realizing its own reality.
Michael has a question coming.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Question. I see it happening to me. I see myself being totally taken away by it. But then I notice that I'm immersed in what seems to be regular life, but on steroids. It's like when Krishna advises Arjuna, take up your bow and be who you are. So what is he still going? I think he may be still tapping, but you can comment on that so far.
Sure.
Yeah. We're waiting.
Very poetic.
Oh, here. So it's crazy. Here I am, fully participating in the illusion. I feel deeply conflicted. What am I not seeing?
Well,
there you go.
When you're fully participating in the illusion, there's no illusion that you're fully participating. The participation is genuine, but you isn't, and the illusion isn't. And you is as an aspect of the participation, and the illusion is an aspect of the participation. But the you is actually nothing but the participation, and the illusion is actually nothing but the participation. So there's no you to worry about an illusion or not, without removing anything, you're not denying the illusion, it's just not an illusion. And you're not denying the you, it's just not a you. It's participation, it's presence. So everything is just the way it's always been. It's just never been anything but radiant presence. And so all the problems and all the solutions and all the people that are stuck and all of the things they're stuck in have always just been radiant presence. And since they are radiant presence, there's no stuckness and there's no one stuck. And when you see that, there is no stuckness and there's no one stuck, even if these conditions that seem to have been entrapping seem to still be presenting, and even if the energies that have been taken to be a self still seem to be presenting. But they're all just radiant presence, like they always were. So there's nothing actually stuck in anything. There's nothing actually trapped by anything. It's like, when the Nazis are chasing Indiana Jones, there's no one being chased by anything. It's just an apparition. It looks as if it is that way. And that's fine. It doesn't need to not look like that, but it isn't like that. It just looks like that. So it may look as if there's circumstances, but there's no circumstances. It may look as if there's a you, but there's no you. There's just an appearance that is interpretable in that way, but it isn't that way. Like in a dream. In a dream, there's no problems, there's no solutions, there's no circumstances, there's no entities, and you're not even in the dream, even if it looks like you are. And yet, what presents itself as the dream may seem as if it is circumstances and entities, and that you're there, and there's problems, and there's hope for solutions, and all this stuff. But it's not actually like that. It's just a dream. There's nothing there. No circumstances. Never was. It was always just a dream. It doesn't need to not be a dream, and it doesn't need to not look like all this complexity in order to be what it is, which is entirely unentrapped, entirely non-problematic energy presentation. Or you could even say virtual energy presentation, because you can't find any actual energy that's actually being presented, and you can't find anything that is actually having energy presented to it.
And you don't need to not feel engaged in it.
Of course not, because that's just more appearance.
Yeah.
Engagement and entrapment and investment are all just names for radiant presence. Who cares? You don't need to not be entrapped. It's impossible to be entrapped. There's no such thing as entrapment. You couldn't be entrapped if you wanted to be. So you certainly don't need to avoid it. It's non-existent. It may look as if, what appears could conceivably be interpretable as if it was like that, but it happens to not be like that, and it's obviously and self-evidently not like that if you look and see what is here. And you're always looking and seeing what's here, so just let yourself notice that you're always looking and seeing what's here, and then you'll look and see what's here, and then you'll see that none of that stuff is here.
Hey Peter, so I was just, as you were talking, I've been looking at this tree out here in the yard, and I know it's just a radiant presence, you could say.
Uh-huh.
And then you said because there's nothing to be you can't actually find the tree.
Yeah.
Does that mean if you go to the tree and look at it really close and look at it more microscopically, you can't find it? Or does that mean that the tree
It's not there.
is just part of a whole continuum of energy?
In every aspect, you can't actually resolve it as anything.
Right.
It's a presence of an inconceivable range of apparent experiential characteristics, right? You're seeing color, you're seeing shape. If you walked up to it and felt it, you'd be feeling it. If you smelled it, it's just inconceivable spectrum of qualities that are presenting.
Right.
But those qualities you can't resolve what any of those qualities actually are. Any of them.
Yeah, what they actually are.
Yeah, you can't say what color it is, you can't say what shape it is, and you don't even need to look close to see it. Even if you're looking at it from afar, look at it and try and see, well, what is it? It's not nothing, it's presenting as all of this complexity, but when you say all this complexity, you can't actually find any complexity. All you find is an inconceivable spectrum of experiential characteristics which don't resolve into anything in themselves, and they don't resolve into anything in toto, as a set, as a grouping either.
Right. So you don't have to go up and look at it really close to see that
No.
it's not. You can just look at it from far away.
Yeah. You can look at it up close, you'll find the same thing.
Right.
Just a different version of it. You can look through a microscope and you find the same thing.
Yeah,
You can look at it big, you can find the same thing.
Yeah, because you're looking at experience, and experience itself is something other.
Yes,
than your
exactly.
experience.
You're not looking at a tree, you're looking at experience.
Experience, right? Yeah.
And experience is just unresolvable characteristics.
Right.
They're unresolvable in every sense, individually, and they're unresolvable in terms of how they're presenting, in terms of well, you can't pin down any aspect of it whatsoever.
Right. I mean, like as I look at this tree, I see like there's a lot of light green, and then there's some gold. You know.
When you say light green's a word which sounds like it's something, but you can't actually find a particular light green because there's actually an infinity of light greens presenting,
Right.
and you can't say what any one of them are individually,
Right.
and any one of them individually isn't a one because you can't isolate it. It's sort of a continuum of it's a gradient.
Right. Yeah, gradient. Right. Yeah.
Nothing has edges around it. Nothing is discrete. Nothing is coherent.
Right. Right.
So it presents as all of this inconceivable information, but the information doesn't actually resolve into anything.
Right. Yeah, because the information itself isn't. I mean, it isn't anything other than information. I guess.
Yeah,
In a way.
But it's
Yeah.
yeah,
it's information that is not
referring to anything.
referring to anything. It doesn't. It's not actually code. It's like if you open a book and you think and you sort of at first glance it looks like you're seeing printing, but you look more closely, it's just squiggles,
Yeah.
and you look more closely at the squiggles, and the squiggles are made of squiggles, and you look more closely, and the squiggles are made of squiggles.
Uh-huh.
So it never was letters. The book is not about anything. It's
Right.
just an endless presentation of experiential qualities, which doesn't resolve into anything.
Yeah, it never was code. Right.
Yeah, and you don't find out more about it by looking closer. You don't find out less about it by looking from farther. It's always unresolvable.
Right.
It's unresolvable at a distance. It's unresolvable up close. It's unresolvable through a microscope. It's unresolvable, through an electron microscope. It's just completely unresolvable. And yet it never stops presenting this whole universe's worth of characteristics.
Right. So it's all like a parent code all the time.
Yeah, it's apparent. All it is apparent. All you can find is apparent. It's an apparent tree with apparent information. And you can't find a tree behind the apparent tree, and you can't find information behind the apparent information.
Right.
You could say that even about the sensory experience.
Everything.
Like every aspect.
Everything, anything whatsoever.
Because even if it brings you joy, well, that's just such a smidge of what it really.
Yeah, and you try and find the joy, and you can't find it.
Right.
It doesn't resolve to anything actual. Nothing resolves to anything.
I've lost the question, but I remember it. The question is, how does seeing this and seeing this clearly help in your everyday life? And the example was like marriage.
You stop caring.
Well, you don't stop caring.
You don't stop caring, but you stop caring about caring. Or not.
You don't stop caring like it's the end of the world or anything. You start seeing that.
I don't know what stop caring like the end of the world means.
Well, in other words, you don't stop caring for the people around you.
No, you care as
but
much as
it's
you ever
not a
did.
life and death thing. It's just an emotion that arises.
Yeah.
You feel it.
You don't
and then
care.
It's gone.
You don't care that you care, or you
Right.
don't care that you don't care.
Right.
You may have as much investment as you ever had, but that doesn't mean anything, and it's because that's not resolvable as anything anyway.
Right. That's what Jeff is saying. If it's like the trees. You can't resolve into anything. We may as well sip tea with the other primate in the house.
Or not.
Thanks, Jeff.
Or throw your
It
cup
turned
at
out
them.
that they're absolutely fascinating. Thanks,
That's
Jeff.
a good one.
Yeah.
The other primate.
But also, to me, it feels like what's looking, so to speak, is the same as what's being looked at or seen,
Of course.
or perceived. So that they're in that. There's not no meaning. It's just that meaning in the sense of meaning something is irrelevant.
Yeah, meaning doesn't resolve into anything either.
It doesn't have to, but there's this kind of interplay, you might say. It's kind of chewy.
Well, it's engagement.
Yeah.
There is engagement,
Yes.
but there's nothing, and it's not engaged with anything.
Right.
It's just engagement
With it in
itself. The presence is engaged with itself as all this, but there's no all this.
So you don't need to then have something that's somehow objective to see anything.
Right. Sure.
You can keep imagining that, but that sort of feels frustrating.
Yeah, because you can't find it. I mean, the problem with the objective world is it never resolves into anything, of course.
Yeah.
And when you get it, it doesn't resolve into anything. You're being with it as it actually is. It never has resolved into anything. You know, no one's ever had a handle on their life. No one's ever had a handle on themselves. No one's ever had a handle on anything. And typically that is a basis for frustration and annoyance and irritation. But in actual fact, it's a basis for joy. It's a basis for freedom. It's a basis for beauty.
I mean, it's like you talk about it being in love with itself.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like
Yeah.
as it's all going down, so to speak.
Yeah.
Hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tantric bliss. The eternal consummation of Shiva and Shakti.
Well, it's just like just like people talk about everyday life. You know, what I'm noticing is that, you know, for a while there, I was thinking, geez, I can't really find anything. Nothing, you know, opinions are meaningless. Everything's kind of wah wah, who what, you know. And I'm going now. I'm going like, well, so what? You know,
That's the good news.
that's the fun one. Yeah, it's like, so I have an opinion. Wow, I could really have a really good opinion. And things just sort of.
You can even have a bad one. It's just
whatever. No.
Have you ever had a good one?
It's yours. Who cares?
It's just like something about having it too well. That was just some more complicated version of wanting something to be a certain way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Forget that. Good luck.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah.
I was thinking of this the other day. I mean, I was thinking, I look at the world sort of as if I'm inside my body, you know, and I'm looking out.
So, yeah.
And do you find yourself like inside the world, but sort of like out in space, or you know, like not from the point of view of a body?
Well, to me, I can't really answer that question one way or the other. My experience is like, very loosely speaking, could be said to be like looking like God. How can I put this?
Yeah.
Okay, this is not accurate, but it's a lot like looking at being in an entirely dark space that has like 1,000 TV screens, each of which are showing something completely different.
Yeah.
And one of the TV screens might be my field of vision, and another of the TV screens might be my thoughts, and another of the TV screens might be my sensations, and another. But they don't have anything to do with each other. They're just, and since it's a dark space, I can't see their actual relationship to each other. They're just present. They sort of just readout. So there's all of this. There's inconceivable different dimensions of readout, but the dimensions aren't strung together into any kind of relationship with each other, except to the extent that they're presenting.
So my sense of
Or like dreaming a lot of different dreams at the same time would be another way to put it, although that's a little harder to picture.
right.
And some of the dreams seem to be seem to have an implicit localization. Some of them are entirely non-local or non-spatial, and so on and so forth. So there's just all different sort of ranges of apparent sort of systems of internal coherence that seem to be present within each of these various dimensions.
So there's no, what's the, I mean, I can see that supposedly the part of the TV that I think is my looking through my eyes, you know.
Sure.
And then I know there's other things happening too, more peripherally and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think of myself sort of outside my body, but I must be outside my body too.
Well, there's no body to be outside or inside.
This.
Right.
There's an experiential field,
Right.
and all the subsets of your experience appear within that field. That field isn't inside any of them.
Yeah, that's what
So
I
your
thought.
vision appears within the field of your experience. The sphere of your sensation appears within your field of experience. And the field of experience is let's say, bigger or includes more than any particular field that appears within it.
Right, right,
So the field of your thoughts appears within the field of your experience.
right.
You know, the field of... And we seem to have a body because of our field of vision, because of our field of sensation, to a lesser extent because of our field of hearing, and maybe to a much lesser extent because of our sense of taste and smell. But those experiential fields are just a few of myriad experiential dimensions that are present within the entire field of your experience.
Right, yeah.
And most of the others have nothing to do with having a body. I mean, think about what presents as your experience when you're falling asleep.
Oh, yes.
You know,
Of course,
you're not particularly localized in a body
Oh, no.
to any degree, and when you get closer to sleep, you're even less so. And yet there's all of this sort of experiential qualities present. Now, from the waking point of view, we can't really classify
Right,
these dimensions of experience that may be present,
right,
but they're certainly not nothing.
right,
And they're not particularly oriented to present as a coherent body.
right,
And yet that's what your body looks like when you're going to sleep.
right,
And then when you're dreaming, a different body might present itself, which again is just a small subset of experiential dimensions within the field of your experience,
right,
which is your true body,
yeah,
which is not a body, it's a field of presence.
right,
I mean, your true body is a transcendental field of presence.
right. I mean, am I having a bias right now towards, let's say, in waking life, a bias towards, like, a personal bias towards that point of view that is going to change?
Maybe.
How can you have a bias when there's what else is there to?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
There's
it's
no
not.
alternative.
I guess it's. It wouldn't be me having a bias because
No.
there's no me.
No, it's a bias appearing.
Yeah, a bias appears. Right. Yeah.
Bingo.
But so that can change over time, right?
Absolutely. There's infinite ways to orient to this, because this is so open-ended. It has no. You can't find a final or an ultimate way to orient to this. And there are infinite virtual sort of subways of orienting. And one of those ways is as if you were inhabiting a body in an objectively existing three-dimensional world.
Right.
But that's only one way of relating to experience, and it's a rather small way. It's a rather limited way. It only includes a very small portion of your experiential dimensions.
Right. That's how it's flowing out right now, but it could
Maybe.
could change.
Yeah. But only a small portion of that is flowing out right now. Because right now there are portions of your experience that are not oriented to a body. You know, right now right now the portion of your experience that exists in deep sleep is actually active, and you may be focusing on your waking, you know, the dimensions of your waking experience more dominantly.
Yeah.
But that doesn't actually shut down these other areas. Your deep sleep is happening right now. Dream is happening right now.
Dream is. Yeah.
Sleep is happening right now. All these different sort of we call them levels or layers or fields of orientation, basically, of your experience are happening concurrently all the time. They don't come and go.
Right.
It's more like you zoom in and zoom out on them.
Right. Yeah. Because I can zoom in on that deep sleep one.
Yeah. When you space out, say you space out or go into a daydream, all of a sudden you're not oriented towards your body-oriented reality. You're oriented towards a dream-oriented reality, maybe, or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Or you go into some deep meditation or whatever, and you're oriented more towards a sleep kind of a condition or something. Who knows what?
Yeah. Right.
But if you notice, your experience is a lot more slippery and a lot more multidimensional.
Right.
Always. Anyway, everyone's is.
Yeah. So it's not like I'm going to go out and get a point of view in space, so to speak.
No, but you already have one.
Because I'm already in space.
Yeah, you already have a point of view that's not in your body.
Right.
You're having it right now. But for whatever reason, you may be in the habit of focusing on a point of view that seems to be more body oriented.
Yeah.
But that's just a zooming in.
That's just an apparent bias.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like probably a habit. You're in the habit of zooming in.
Yeah.
It's like most people maybe are in the habit of really orienting to their field of vision as their dominant orientation. Maybe. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe it's not. Maybe yes. Maybe no.
But it's not really my habit. It's just the way it's appearing to
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. It's its mode of karma.
Right. It's its mode of karma right now.
Yeah. It's what it looks like. But even in looking like that, it is nothing other than radiant presence. And even when it sees itself, when it learns to see itself more multidimensionally, it will not become more radiant presence.
Yeah.
It's just a recognition of what is already the case and has always been the case.
Right. It's radiant presence.
And it doesn't gain anything in that recognition. It's just a recognition of what it is.
Right. Yeah.
So identifying as being in the body is not a lesser condition, and absolute realization is not a greater condition. Realization is just of what is the case, and has always been the case. It can't not be the case.
Right. Yeah.
Give in.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking about, like God or Ram or something, and I thought, those guys that are always repeating that's what they're thinking. I mean, that's maybe what they're thinking, I don't know. But it's clearly, that's all there is here.
Sure.
That wins. That's total, there's only that here, whatever that is.
Yeah, and that's already the case.
Right.
Whether you don't need to say it over and over to make it for it to be the case.
Yeah, no,
and if you don't say it, it doesn't make it not the case.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like total winning all the time.
Yeah, it's like saying, I am God, I am God. Well, of course you're God.
Right.
But you don't have to say, whether you say it or not doesn't change anything.
Right.
Just look and see what those words mean. Look and see what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Look and see what's happening, and you'll see, well, this condition is this condition, and that is the case, period. It's already a done deal.
Yeah, whatever tag you put on it is just a tag. I mean, it's radiant presence no matter whether you're calling it Ram or...
Yeah, call it Ram or My Shitty Life or whatever you want. What difference does it make? It still is what it is.
Yeah, right.
And what that is absolutely astounding.
Right.
And it's obviously so you have the potentiality to look and notice that that's so, and then you get to enjoy it, you get to appreciate that fact.
Yeah.
And even if you're not appreciating that fact, it still is that fact, and in actual fact, whatever you are experiencing is appreciating that fact. Because that fact is such that it presents as everything, anything.
Right, yeah.
When you're in delusion and pain and identification, that is what radiant presence can present as, in its unending intoxication with itself.
The radiant presence itself, it's not located in anything bigger.
No.
It's all of its own.
It's the whole show. Everything's in it.
Right.
And it doesn't even have an in or an out.
Right.
It's like the Big Bang. So high you can't go over it. So low you can't go under it. So wide you can't go around it. You got to go into the door.
It's the elephant in the room.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Pink.
Oh, it's break time. How nice.
Oh, wait. Before I lose the
Okay,
question,
say it.
because this
Say it.
doesn't hold it. Question. Jed McKenna, I am a yoga teacher, and I know that there are many ways to teach or to point, and so I have respect for that. But I have questions about him, and I'm wondering if Peter could comment on these. Well, with this thing, with the little app on here, it doesn't let you do a great big. I'm just going to tell KDB to ask after the break.
Okay, yeah.
To
We'll be
type it
back
out.
in about 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to pause the audio. I'll leave the video on so you all can enjoy watching us glutton ourselves with snacks.
Gluttonous? We are not gluttonous. Excuse me. Okay, we are. Because we know how to party.
So it's right down right so let's
We know how to party. We do the best potlucks.
That's right.
Because as Susan likes to say,
So,
meat to eat. That's what she told me
they
once.
don't
I
take
never forgot it.
reservations. But on Wednesday, I mean,
Hi,
yeah,
Jeff.
so I emailed
Hi,
you.
Beth.
Can you-
Hope Guy is on. There's a beautiful potluck dinner tonight. Every dish was unbelievable. It was really over the top. It was fantastic. Anyway, hope to see you guys soon. Okay, bye.
Yeah, anyway, you'll find it.
Oh, brought that.
Usually people on it project out, right? So therefore they get framed.
Ben and Gerald, thank you. I'm not talking, but it's got oh my God. Oh, but the dough has.
Let's get this going on.
Oh, listen to her! So I can't.
Set up and the tents and the, all that stuff. She gets the treatment. Just for helping out. I've already talked to one of the sheriffs and it's really nice. They did it right. The VIPs are really VIP. Oh my God!
I think it's absolutely lovely.
It's cool.
You should leave it open, no?
It's cooling off, but I think it's lovely myself. But I am over here, so.
Is cold coming in on you?
Okay, man.
Oh, yeah. Many times.
When is the
We used to stay every summer. Now we get my in-laws. No, I didn't know what was
Oh, Vancouver, Washington.
Yeah.
Awesome. BC is the whole different kettle of fish. Yeah, I'm sure. Yummy? Worth it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you're orgasmic. You kidding?
It's the cookie dough.
Still don't have chocolate, but that's okay. All right, goodbye.
It's safer out here. Right.
Is that
The answer to the
Lily,
Zen koan.
is that Michael Levenhagen on?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Ask him how
When I
he's
say
doing.
Michael, I mean Michael.
Ask him how he's doing.
Okay.
I guess he had his surgery already.
You can ask him right there, and then he'll tell me on here. How you doing, Michael?
Yeah, I guess I did ask him.
Yes, you did
If
ask
he
him
happens to
already.
be watching right now.
Unless he went on a break.
I hope he's doing all
My
right.
emojis showed up on my iPad, and I saw yours too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. I wasn't sure if they would show up or not. Oh, my God, that's terrible. I didn't realize. I'm walking around going like this. It showed up on the camera. Oh, shit. Let's see.
The old argument against having webcams in the bathroom.
Hi,
Yeah, right.
Jeff says
Like
hi,
later.
Leif.
Oh, hey.
Beth says hi, Leif. And sends you XOX.
Okay, great.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Beth. See you soon.
Do the news. You should do the news.
I should do the news.
Because you're so thorough. He says, you're so thorough.
Oh.
Who is that?
And Michael says, hi, Peter. I'm okay. Surgery on the 29th. We'll let you know how that turns out. Well, good luck.
Yeah, we're rooting for you.
That's right. We're rooting for you.
Michael,
really-
is that Michael Riley?
Michael
Levenhagen.
Levenhagen. Hagen. Wouldn't
He
it be
comes here. He comes
Levenhagen?
here sometimes from San Jose.
Yeah, right.
Is it Levenhagen or Levenhagen?
Don't know.
Anybody heard from Will?
I think it's a ah.
Maybe not.
Hagen Dazs?
Do we know
Like
how?
Hagen Dazs, right? Levenhagen.
Last I heard of her on Facebook a few days ago, she seemed to be doing fine. But I haven't communicated with her in any kind of personal depth.
Oh, yes. Where you cut the
She went back right there.
She's been there for a long time. After her father died, apparently she ended up inheriting the house. And apparently she's been sorting all that out, I gather, as well as whatever else has been involved in.
Did you ever use the stylus?
I heard rumors she might be back sometime before very long, but they were
no.
just rumors and I don't
The
know
little
anything
pen
about
that
it.
you, yeah, no, it just takes too long. You can't do it too fast. Yeah,
Where did he live?
I like the ice cream.
I know on a map, like on the south coast. I don't know
What's it
the, I don't know
about
the,
ice cream? Oh, Stephen.
Adelaide.
maybe.
Adelaide. If you look at Australia, it's like
If you're looking at Australia, they lived at about 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
that could be either Melbourne.
I think near Melbourne.
Probably not.
But I'm just talking off the top of my head. I don't remember because I don't have a picture of where the names
Lily's
of the
not
cities
online.
are.
I don't think. She hasn't written anything yet. I sent her
I
a
could
text.
point to it on a map of Australia because Lily showed me on Google
There.
Maps.
It's
Basically
tomorrow
two
morning after 12
large
noon.
areas. One is Melbourne itself.
Probably
which is
tomorrow
down
at
the bottom.
1:30.
Yeah, I think it's near. Yeah, it's near Melbourne.
It is.
It's a little bit to the east of Melbourne and inland of Wales, if memory serves. But again, I wouldn't swear to that because I don't remember I don't remember for sure it's Melbourne, but that sounds familiar.
Have you
been over there?
I'd love to see Australia, but I've never
Oh,
been.
it's great.
Yeah.
It's a sleeper.
Michael said he tried to get here tonight, but it's just too much work.
Yeah, well, that's quite a haul.
It's quite a haul, and he's yeah.
Heck, I barely get here.
And that's because I drive you.
Like I said, I barely get here.
Oh, stop it! That was good though. I appreciate
all in the
the
time.
joke, even if it's on me. That's okay. I'm such an easy patsy, you know. I'm a soft touch.
One of these little sticks is coming together on this.
Oh yeah, it's not important.
It's okay.
It's
yeah.
just to
stable
keep it air
enough.
to
Oh
go.
yeah, thank you.
Is it like disease?
Oh, God, I don't know.
Oh man, is anybody else hot? The back door's open. I'm going out there.
Well, go for a little walk. You'll
I'm just
you'll
gonna
cool
go
off right away.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna cool off for a minute. It's hot in here. Oh my god. Perfect out here.
Maybe we could reconvene before long.
Could be anything.
Well, I think we're saying that gradual fall or something. I've never had those major winds that have seemed weird.
I don't know those.
Maybe are they neighbors that you do that?
Well, my landlords are the ones that talk to me and say, can you trim some of this? And I guess they don't want to quite to quality of life is shifted.
Yeah, a lot you can't control. Right? A lot you can't control. You just come back. You just
Beautiful
go off and
camp
come
out
back.
there, isn't it? I open this door a little bit more because we need a little more air.
See what I could do to get my chair back.
That sounds possible. Yeah, just give me a call anytime.
If I open the front door so we get a little
Oh,
draught.
wow, that would be better.
Oh, okay, great. Yes? You calling me?
No, I'm just trying to gather the troops. Trying to herd the cats.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ding-a-lings. Calling all my ladies. Singing kettle. Oh. Oh, yeah, you gotta learn that. I have to start whistling.
The Zen crew were good at that. They were good at ringing bells and clapping words.
I'm too much of an anarchist to get involved in it.
You gotta remember yourself, right?
So we're officially back. We're online. Everyone's very excited. The bell has been rung.
Oh, is that? Oh no.
That was you?
She's a phone.
Oh, you have a bell on your phone. That's good.
Should have a bomb.
It's all good.
I'm sure there's a Big Ben app.
Well, okay, let's see.
No big Japanese gong. You have a wonderful definition for thing. I'm wondering what your definition of a parent is.
Can't say.
Is it more than what is a parent?
No. Well, yes and no.
Yeah, well,
Because what is a parent is not a parent. I mean, it is a parent, but you can't be found. I mean, look and see. Here, your experience as a parent, right? What exactly, precisely, is that? Or presence. You can't find presence. Presence is completely obvious. It's completely obvious that your experience is present. You know, just ignore exactly what that word means, and it's completely obvious that that is the case. And yet, try to find exactly what is this presence. How is it present? What do I mean when I say my experience is present? What do I mean? So I mean, try and go find, not in thought or in analysis, try and find the actuality of, okay, if this is presence, here it is. What is it that is, what is this event, this condition that is presence? Can't find it. Can't find it. Can't find presence. Can't find radiance. Can't find anything.
Looking for meaning is as mystifying as looking for things.
Looking for anything. Nothing can be found. Absolutely nothing. This is present, obviously, undeniably, self-verifyingly, and yet that is a completely empty, meaningless statement because you cannot resolve it into anything. This is undeniably real and actual, and yet that's a completely meaningless statement because you can't resolve that into anything. So we're in the very strange and paradoxical state of affairs where nothing can be found, and yet it's not nothing. And you can't find a not nothing either, and yet it's not nothing. So it doesn't resolve, it doesn't converge, it doesn't end up at a result. It's like trying to divide by zero. It just doesn't go anywhere. So, presence, actuality, apparent, these things, even though they're self-evident, are entirely unfindable. Nothing is findable. I mean, that's the absolute hallmark of reality, is it's entirely unfindable. It's entirely unfindable, but it doesn't go away. And it is findable that is the case. But having found that is the case, you haven't found anything.
Peter, it seems like if you were constructing an experience, you'd want to construct it that way. I mean, that's as efficient as it gets.
I guess. You don't need to bother with actually producing anything that way.
Yeah.
You don't need to actually come up with anything.
It's nothing to clean up.
Yeah.
So,
No residue.
what would you say is going on when it seems as if there are things? What is it actually that we do to give the illusion that there are specific, independent
Right.
things?
Not notice.
Yeah.
Not notice actuality. And that can happen is very strange.
Not notice what?
Not noticing itself.
Not noticing that there aren't any.
Noticing is this substanceless apparition. That is noticing. And if you don't notice, then you're not noticing this substanceless apparition, and all bets are off. You can be inhabiting a world, you can be stuck in a hellish life, you can be a pathetic loser, you can have all the conditions that people may imagine they're in. And that can happen is miraculous, is very strange, is a mystery. And what happens when that happens is very strange. But at any instant, noticing is possible because noticing is already occurring. So it's not like something needs to begin that is not already happening, which is how it's very easy to notice. You just need to notice that you're noticing. Because because even delusion, even misinterpretation is actually nothing other than noticing. So even not noticing is actually noticing. In other words, when you go lucid in a dream, it's not actually a different condition from when you're lost in a dream, gullibly.
It seems to me that it's basically applying a word with something, giving it a name and a word.
Sure.
Seems to create the illusion of an entity.
Sure.
Other than
I would
that,
say you're giving it stronger than that. You're giving it a concept, which may be anchored around the word, but is a little more intangible and fleshes out the word. The word refers to the concept. The word is just a sound or a glyph. But the concept is a gestalt of sensory information and ideas and semantic labels and all that are sort of imagined to have something to do with each other when in actuality they have nothing to do with each other. So this is a recorder, and as a recorder, it is what it's this set of qualities that are appearing in my field of vision. It's the word recorder. It's the idea of it functioning as an electronic device that is capturing sound. And so all of these things, which actually have nothing to do with each other and are unfindable in themselves, are sort of strung together like pearls on an imaginary string. And I after I string them together, I tie a knot, and then this whole loop is a recorder. But the vision has nothing to do with the word. This site here has nothing to do with the word recorder. Has nothing to do with the concept of an electronic device. Has nothing to do with the recording of sound. This vision has no sound at all. It's just vision.
It's like form and function. We divide things up by form and function.
Well, we imagine that there is form. We imagine that there is function. I mean, form and function are themselves just concepts. You can't find any actual form. You can't find any actual function.
They work.
Well, they don't. Nothing works. The only thing that works is radiant presence. Form and function work if you hold them to work, but it's just an empty claim being laid on the actuality of radiant presence. It's like saying cars run. Cars run because of radiant presence, not because of cars or because of running. Cars don't run because of engineers in automobile companies. Cars run because of radiant presence. Your body doesn't work because of DNA and your parents having conjugal relations and an environment and nutrition and all these other things. Your body works because of radiant presence. Pure and simple. All the rest of that is an elaborate stringing together of things that have nothing to do with each other.
Well, you seem to be reducing everything down to its most basic.
I'm not reducing it. There's nothing to reduce.
Well, everything.
It's like going to a movie theater and saying, you're reducing Indiana Jones and the Nazis down to light on the screen. I'm not reducing anything down to anything. There is no Indiana Jones to reduce. There are no Nazis to reduce. There is no plot to reduce. There's no war to reduce. There's no heroism to reduce. There's no problem to reduce. There's no resolution to reduce. It's just light on a fucking screen. So you're not. So when you say it's light on the screen, you're not reducing anything to anything.
But radiant presence has features and qualities.
Yeah.
And function and form.
Yeah. Except it doesn't really. Radiant presence has radiance.
Experiencing as if it is something doing it itself. So that
Sure.
when it comes back, then you can see it, you can spot it. It's like
Well, what it is the knowing itself. It is the knowing. It is the energy of the knowing. It's call it the lustfulness of the joy or the exuberance of the knowing itself that causes all the problems. So the very that which is the goal, that which is the final result, is also the cause of all the problems. And in being the cause of all the problems, it's also the solution to the problems, because it solves the very problems it causes ultimately.
It's the biggest game in town.
Yeah. Yeah. Hide and seek. It's like God plays hide and seek with itself.
I think that's funny.
That's okay. I have a twisted sense of humor.
It's like being turned inside out.
Sorry?
Huh?
It's like being turned inside out.
Very much so.
Mm.
Inside Out is a really profound sort of a metaphysical model. I mean, it relates to the whole optical illusion paradigm. It relates to every aspect of delusion. Turns out to be pretty much the opposite of actuality. In other words, the worldview of a deluded person is almost exactly opposite of the actuality. So you may think you're in your body, actually your body is in you. You may think you're in the world, actually the world is in you. You may think you're in space and time, actually space and time is in you. You may think you're stuck in your karma, actually your karma is stuck in you. And so it's almost literally and precisely an inside out.
Yep.
The actual condition is almost precisely the inside out of the deluded interpretation or expectation or worldview.
Yeah, Peter, I was trying to think of what John had said just a minute ago about the experiencer.
Uh-huh.
And I think, or even experience, that I have more the sense that experience is in me, or I'm, it's not separate. I mean, it's just all one. Because, in terms of a dream, I'm not really. I'm not a dreamer. The dream is in me. It's.
Sure, the dream's in you, the dreamer's in you, if any.
Yeah.
The whole thing is in you. The whole thing would not be if you weren't.
Right. So, it's not a sort of a separate experiencer or a separate dreamer.
No. There is nothing separate from anything else. And there is nothing. There is no thing. So of course there is nothing that can be separate from anything else. There is this condition, this actuality, which is exactly as it is, and it cannot be found as a thing, and it cannot be broken down into sub-things or constituent things. It's entirely transcendental. It transcends analysis, it transcends definition, it transcends resolution. Intrinsically, it's not a failure of observation. It's not that it is something and we're just too stupid to see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's, in fact, we see it very precisely and hyper-intelligently, but it's not a thing that does resolve to anything. It's not a thing that has any intrinsic coherence. So the fact that we can't resolve it and the fact that it is incoherent is our clear seeing of it. And it's not a thing. It can't be resolved as a thing. It can't be resolved what it is. It can't be resolved how it is. It's absolutely nothing. and yet it's not non-existent in any simple sense. But you can't find it. It's completely obvious and self-evident and explicit, but it can't be found. Very strange. But it's only strange if you expect that it could be otherwise.
Like the inside out thing.
Yeah.
A Mobius strip is pretty good for that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can't tell which is which. The inside and the outside is the.
Yeah.
And go 5 more.
Huh?
Go 5 more.
Just checking it out.
Okay.
Got
No,
10. I got 10 more on my clock.
I was looking at that one up there, and that's wrong.
Ten more minutes on the grindstone. I know, right? Sitting back, bullshitting, drinking cider. It's rough, I tell you.
Are you going to be airing any of the hunting talks that you want?
Every evening.
Every evening. Okay.
There will be web broadcast the first Tuesday in June through the first Saturday in June every evening.
Evening. Okay. It's good that you announced that. Will there be, well, on Tuesday we'll be moderating, but not during the retreat.
Correct.
Okay.
And there may be moderating, but there won't be questions
Yeah, right.
from online.
I can moderate.
You can answer the questions.
That's right. No, that's Jeff's job.
Jeff
Oh, but
will
he'll
do
be there.
Yeah.
We can't do it then. I'll get him a computer.
It's a little bit like that, the conundrums that were sort of brought up in that play last night, or what we were talking about this morning with Niels Bohr's assertion that we live in a quantum actuality, but we're treated as if it's a Newtonian reality. You know, this actuality is unresolvable, which is counterintuitive if you're approaching it from a Newtonian point of view, i.e., from a point of view of ignorance or a consensus worldview. But if you approach it from as it is, the fact that actuality is unresolvable is just a given. It's self-evident. It's indeterminacy. The uncertainty principle and complementarity and all those things are specifically and exactly that fact, which happens to be the fact. That's the case. That's what this is. So, actuality, specificity, that which is, does not resolve to anything. And that is the cornerstone of realization.
But it's not just the fact, it's like it's the magic too.
All of it, everything.
Yeah, that's where
That's how it works.
how this knows itself, right?
Yeah, sure. It's how it knows itself. It's also how it misses itself. It's how it doesn't know itself. It's how it manages to generate all this infinite apparent deviation without ever actually departing from itself.
Is there a distinction between knowing and radiance?
No,
You don't really need two words there.
no.
Between knowing and radiance? Oh, I see.
Knowing, the way in our language knowing is usually used, it implies a certain passivity or receptivity where there's the knowing of something, and that something is the positivity, and the knowing is in some sense held as a passivity or receptivity of that. But it's not actually like that. The knowing is also the creating. Like in a dream. The dream is known by being dreamt. So the dream is radiated, and the very thing that radiates it is also knowing it. So the knowing of it and the creation of it are one and the same. And it's like that with the radiance. The radiance is what appears, and what appears through being known. Mm-hmm. So the being known is the generation of the appearance. It's not like there's a knowing here and an appearing here that somehow meet. It's more integral than that.
And there's no time sequence.
No time. Time again is apparent. It's virtual. It's interpreted into. It's analyzed into appearance, but it's not actual.
After the fact.
Yeah. Time, space, all those, sort of contextual frameworks are not inherent.
You have time for a quickie?
Sure.
It may not be quick.
It's okay.
What is trauma?
What is trauma or drama?
Trauma. Trauma.
Trauma is apparition, is appearance. Trauma is event. All event is trauma. All event changes everything forever.
Do what forever?
All events changes everything forever.
Sure.
And if that ain't traumatic. So in a certain sense, trauma is radiance. Trauma is apparition. Trauma is experience. Experience is traumatic.
I think that the thing is to think that trauma is different than everything, the norm that happens.
No, everything.
Is to assume trauma shouldn't happen.
Yeah, trauma is event, is experience.
All the suffering.
Yeah, all suffering. That's it. Yeah, well put. Yeah, exactly.
You can say
that is trauma.
Extreme joy or something is also a form of trauma.
Absolutely, because it's an event.
Negative.
So I'm not saying trauma is not negative.
No,
trauma
I understand. But that's
trauma. You could say trauma is disruptive, and reality is continually disrupting itself through presenting itself as what appears.
Well, so trauma or giving birth, both of those are very disruptive.
And there you go.
Okay?
And on that note...
Never sleep again.
On that note, I wish you all a fond good evening. And when you ride your bike home, be sure to wear white.